Welcome to the ECE Classroom Podcast with your host, Susie Begin, inspiring early childhood educators every day. Hello and welcome to the ECE Classroom, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of early childhood education, parenting tips, and creative learning strategies. I'm your host, Susie Begin, and today we have a very special guest with us. I call her my training partner. This is Jacky Sheppard. Welcome to the show, Jacky.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
So let me tell you a little bit about Jacky. Jacky has actually been in the field for over 46 years. That's amazing. She is the former owner and founder of Streetsville Children's Center and Streetsville Academy. And she is now an early years consultant. And we do lots of trainings and consultings together. So that's how I know Jacky. And she's also the administrator for a group called POG. You want to tell us a little bit about that and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Originally I'm obviously sound like I'm from the UK, which I am. So in the UK, I was actually in the midwifery department of a busy hospital, special care nursery nurse. And when I came to Canada, I then went to Sheridan College, did my ECE. I went to Humber College and did my special ed, my RT, and worked at a not-for-profit. Stayed there for 15 years, and then my family and I we opened Streetsville Children's Center, and yes, had the absolute privilege of being there for 31 years until a year ago when I retired. So this is what retirement looks like.
Yeah, I don't know if you're retired.
No, apparently not. um, but um, but I do get now to choose what I do. Part of that was, of course, connecting with you and really developing some beautiful training. So I'm happy to be here today talking about one of my very favorite subjects, actually.
Yes. So today we're going to delve into the topic of circle time. Circles and stories, we call it, is our training. So if you like what you hear today and you want to book a training session with us, we do it virtually as well as in person. And it's called Circles and Stories. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm so excited to have you on the show today. It's been a long time coming, and I'm sure I'm going to have you on the show again to talk about more of the things that we do. But I just absolutely love this topic of circles and stories, and I think you do too. So tell me,
I do.
kind of why do you think circle time is important in the early years?
Oh my goodness. I could talk for hours on this. I love that sense of gathering, that opportunity to connect with the children. And for the educators, I think it's a time where you can really come into your own. You can relax, you can pretend, you can have that opportunity to just explore with them. And I think for a lot of new educators, it's something that's really a challenge. They really get scared off by it. They get in their own head around it, and they just think it's got to be something, complicated. And that's not so. It's not, it doesn't have to be complicated at all. So yes, I think it's very important. I think it's kind of dying art in some ways. I think we've moved away from it. I don't think it's valued as much as it really should be. That's why we've worked on this topic and now we're presenting it.
And I think you're right. I mean, I think it's a lost art. I think
Yes.
there's an art to it, and they're not teaching it in the colleges. They're not teaching it in the universities on how to run a circle time. What are the strategies? How to, engage children in circle? I think a lot of educators default to the like, let's sing the hello song, let's do the weather, and then maybe read a story. But that's
Yeah.
pretty much it. And it's
Yeah.
not that engaging. And you and I have gone out into the field and we've seen classrooms and how they do circles and it's just it's unfortunate because there's so much opportunity there, right? Like I think that there's so much we can do, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what we're seeing is that once we demonstrate a little bit and once we show them a few things, they just come alive. They're just like, oh, that's it. And we're like, yeah, that's it. And so it's almost given them permission to be, to get into the moment, to get involved in a story, to just not worry about who else is listening, just do it. And if you make a mistake, then that's okay. If you change the story a little bit, that's okay. Maybe you slip up, maybe you have five little pigs now. I don't know. It doesn't matter because the children love it anyway. They're not
Hmm.
critiquing you. It's not like there's a test at the end of it. Um, so yes, it's hopefully we're changing that over time because we're getting a lot of people wanting this workshop now. So it's a great hot topic.
Yeah. And so let's go into that. So we break our training into like music and movement and then storytelling, right? So like two components of circle time. Do you think that it's important to have both all the time, or do you think you can mix it up? Like, how do you think a successful circle time would run?
I think you can mix it up. Personally, I like to have the variety. I like to have that highs and lows, and I like that quiet time, but I also like to have the movement. So I think it's difficult just to stick on one lane. I think you've got to have a toolbox that has in that toolbox a variety of things at any given time. You never know how the children are going to react either. And you don't know. I mean, if you've got a bad storm outside and you haven't been out all day and you're trying to do a circle, you might want to do one that's a little more movement wise. But if they've been outside and they've had a lovely yard time and it's a regular kind of a day, then I think you can have those highs and lows. And really, as long as you're organized and you've got things in the toolbox. So that's where it becomes very critical to be organized.
Hmm. Yeah. I think definitely we talk about preparation as being like the number one key to a good circle time is you got to be prepared. If you start circle time and you're missing the stuff that you need to run your circle and you're running off to go get them during circle time when children are sitting, you've lost them, right? You've lost the
Absolutely. So you need
opportunity.
to have your
Yeah.
fly there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like to talk about having it in a kit, having it in a bag, having it in a shoebox. Have something that's closed. It's more fun if they don't see it. It's kind of that suspense. But yes, absolutely critical that you have a list of things that you know you can go to. So I spend time usually with new staff saying, okay, write down three or four songs, write down a story that you know, write down the props that go with that story. So once you've broken that down, then they're like, oh, I could do Brown Bear because I do know that story. And so they get more confident. They've got a few things that they can do. And at first that's going to repeat itself. Of course, that's going to be their go-to. But over time, what we would like to see happen is that schools, make some book kits, make some story kits, and then trade them between classrooms so that you end up with 10 story kits that you can go to at any given time. And a school would start with one or two and develop that. And it's a lovely make and take for a staff meeting. It's a really lovely one. And so it's a matter of just changing the mindset slightly and allowing people to just experiment and take some risks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into the story kit stuff, because I know you're going to want to show what you've created and talk about that. But before that, let's talk about like the benefits to children of circle time. You talked about belonging, you talk about that gathering, right? Like that's definitely a good benefit
Mhm.
of circle time. But I think also, in terms of like benefits of circle time, I think that it's good for transitions, right? Like those times of day when it's
Oh, yeah.
difficult to go from one thing to another thing, doing
Mhm.
a good circle in between helps that transition a little bit. Talk a little bit maybe about how you see it in transition.
So if your transitions are, something that you dread, something that are chaotic, something that are, less than perfect, and you really don't know how to get them from one place to the other, and then look at putting in something like a regular song that matches that transition. So I'm a big believer in that, in having repetition. So if you know that you've got to go from A to B, what's a song that would be exactly the right tempo and would have some beat to it? And what's a song that we all know? So that little song that you're going to put in place there, you're always going to use that on that transition. It's a signal. It tells the children that we're actually getting up and moving. We're going over here. We're doing that. Here comes the lunch. It's coming in, and we have to tidy up. So those go-to songs and rhymes, or even clapbacks, they really will help get that transition nice and smooth and calm. And if it's a new song, if it's a song you haven't done before, then practice it in circle time first before you do it on a transition. So do some practice runs, even sing it in the
Good
yard.
idea. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
I love a practice run. I've been member of a choirs all my life, and we practice and practice and practice before we have to do it. There's a reason for doing that, because it builds the pathways, it builds the memory, it gets into the right place in our brain, and it becomes a natural event. It isn't something that, oh, I've never heard that before. No, it comes into that familiar place again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Triggers like a memory, right? A memory in
It
the
does.
brain
It
that,
does.
tells you, okay, it's time to do
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of circle times, usually people have them scheduled into their schedule, program schedule for the day. But do you think that spontaneous circles is a good idea as well? Let's say, for example, a circle outdoors, you're outside and you happen to do a circle time, or, like you said, during a transition. So what do you think about spontaneous circles?
So I do think there's a time where you need to be spontaneous, and in the yard is a beautiful one. And maybe when you're doing a washroom routine, I think you can, throw something together quickly. But would I stop during the morning, during the run of the classroom? I probably wouldn't draw huge attention to a circle. But if I were in the house center, in the dramatic center maybe, and I was playing with the children, which often would happen, if I start singing Polly Put the Kettle On, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And you're probably going to draw a crowd, especially if you've got a kettle, because that's always a prop's
Yeah.
always good to have. So I think you have to be a little bit cautious, but I do think you need some spontaneity. I think you have to go with it if it comes to your mind, if it's something that comes up for you.
Yeah, and maybe some new educators don't particularly know these songs, right? Like these Polly Put
Yes,
a Kettle On, right? Like it's more, the traditional song, and maybe some educators don't. So how would they find all of these different kinds of songs they can sing or even play if they don't know the words? You
yeah,
know, how
yeah.
do they get access to all of that? How do they
Well,
know? Like,
YouTube's amazing. I come from the time of life where nursery rhymes and fairy tales were absolutely, you know, the first thing in to my mind. I would always think of, Jack and Jill went up the hill. That would be my first song. I would think, especially if you're outside in the yard and you've got a beautiful natural yard and you've got the hills, then there's no reason, if you could take a bucket out, that you couldn't go Jack and Jill went up the hill. So it's definitely something that we have to find for educators right now. We have to give them links. We have to help them understand. We were training last week, Susie and I, and you and I, and we actually had to explain what Goldilocks and the Three Bears story was.
yes.
And it hurts my heart to even say it, because how do you not know those beautiful fairy tales and stories? And they're just so lovely, and to act out, and to give that rich literacy to the children. If they don't know those stories, they can definitely Google them and find them. Or they reach out to you and I, and we give them a list.
Yes, we do. We have that list. And so tell us, we created these visuals, right? Remember, we
Yeah.
created these visuals of these songs and, we have
Yes.
story kits and we have song kits. So tell me some examples because for the music and movement component of the circle, to give me some examples of different kinds of ways to make it engaging rather than just, playing the song on either CD or YouTube, but how can they also add more to it? Like you mentioned props, but like give me some examples.
Yeah, perfect. Well, first of all, I think, if you're going to do a song, try and find one that has props that match it. Try and, if, for instance, five green and speckled frogs, you need to find five frogs. You need to find those frogs from somewhere, or make a picture or draw them. They're not easy to find, by the way. I've been looking for frogs,
I
but
know. I've been looking for frogs too.
all right, we need 10 frogs then. But I do think that you can draw them, you can photocopy them, you can have the children make them. It doesn't matter if it doesn't even look like a frog. But by giving the children a part to play, they're engaged. So like a really great story song that I love, it's another oldie but goodie, is down at the corner at the grocery store, and so you would give them pennies to pay. So I have those big poker chips that I use. And then right now I have one with beautiful little dollar store flowers, down at the corner at the flower shop because the flowers are coming out in the spring. But that song can be anything at any time. So once you've got the idea of the song, you just change the lines. So it can be the Halloween, down at the pumpkin store, down at the donut store, it can be anything you want it to be. Once you give those children a prop, they're in. Get the song going as fast as you can, give it some energy, and then help them work those props in. So once you do that in the circle, then they want to do it again and again and again and again. Um, It's the same with sleeping bunnies. I mean, everybody knows sleeping bunnies, but if you had a bunny that would sleep, you can sing that first of all just on your own. And then can you all be bunnies? Right? So then you've engaged everybody being a bunny. Another great one is if you get the children to all bring in a bear, a teddy bear from home. So you have teddy bear's picnic. And a teddy bear's picnic is a lovely one to do at Cirtle time because there's lots of bear songs. So the bear went over the mountain. You can make a mountain, just find a pile of something, cover it over with a cloth. It's a mountain. Like use your imagination. So they can all come and walk over the mountain with their bear, right? They can be the bear. You could have bear head pieces. You could give them a prop that has a pear on a little popsicle stick. You're a bear now. You whatever you give them, they are, right? So absolutely engagement's key to a good circle time. 100%. Not for every song, maybe, but a couple of the songs. I love using shakers. I love right now you can get the little Easter eggs, fill them with rice, put a piece of tape on them, use them as shakers. Everybody can use the shaker as part of that music song. I got this beautiful little drum it actually just came from Amazon. So I will show you my little drum.
Yes.
So I love the sound of this drum. So if you've got something like this and they've got their shakers, you have an orchestra already. You
Yes.
already you're there, right?
Yes. And I
Very
do
little
believe
effort.
I do believe the use of props helps to create that engagement, right? Because
Yes.
when children are holding on to something in the circle, it's much easier to pay attention to what's going on rather than watching somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, where they have to be holding, something in their own hands. It's hands-on learning then, right? Because they've got their
Yeah.
own hands on something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Whether
Exactly.
it's an instrument or a prop or whatever. And I like the idea of you mentioned props, like using real props if you can, like,
Yeah.
toy frogs or toy ducks for your songs, Or like if you can't don't have the real thing, then you make it, right? You make it and you
Yeah.
put on a popsicle stick and
Yeah.
it still has the same effect, right? Yeah, I love that.
And the key to this is to get prepared ahead of time. So if you know that you're going to introduce a couple of new songs, then figure out how am I going to present those? What are they going to what part are they going to have in this? So you have to make those ahead of time. You can't get to the circle and then try and find something. It falls apart. And even the seasoned people like you and I, it falls apart. You can't hold it together if you don't have what you need to keep it together. So you have to glue things together. And you also have to know what's coming next. So you have to have this rhythm in your circles. Are you going to start with this and then do that and then finish with that? So it's always think a little bit like a jam sandwich. I always think about that because it's easy. Everyone knows what a jam sandwich is. So bread, jam. So your teaching time needs to be at least one jam sandwich. So a start, a middle, and an end. So how are you going to fill that in? And what are you going to do? You're going to end with something quieter like Tommy Thumb, another oldie but goodie. Finger plays are something that we've forgotten to do again. We've gone out of our mind again. What is a finger play? I asked a teacher the other week, do you know any finger plays? And she's like, a finger play?
Lovely. Okay, let's switch gears to story. So we talked about kind of songs and movement, but what about story? You mentioned story kits before. Can you, for people who don't know what story kit is, can you explain what's in a story kit? What is a story kit? How do you use it?
Yeah, I'd love to. So a story kit is pick a story, one that you know maybe. So maybe there was an old lady who swallowed a fly. Maybe that's a story that you remember from being a little one and you love it. And then you read the story to yourself at first and you figure out what is this story all about so that you know the story and what are the pieces that make this story really great. So we need the old woman, we need an old woman. If you haven't got a puppet, you can make something. You can make a brown bag puppet of an old woman. And obviously, I've got my fly now, so I'm very, very happy. But you go through that story and you make a list of all the things that are in that story. And you come up with this shopping list now of things that are key to that story that would enhance that story. Um, and then what you do is you find something to put everything in. So a shoebox, a bag, a drawstring bag that they can't see what's inside of it. That's really cool. Um, a bucket. It doesn't matter what it is you put it in, but all those props would go right there close to you so that when you're reading this story, you can very easily get your props. And then you are going to make that into one kit. And the secret of this success is don't mix and match kits. So would I take this fly and put it in another one? I might, but I try not to do that because once you start pulling things from the kit, there's one day that you take out that kit to read it, there'll be something missing.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
you'll
Yeah.
regret it forever and ever and ever. So I like to get a plastic bag that's got a handle. I like to get a Tupperware with a lid. I found some really cool ones on Amazon that had a zipper on them. Keep it organized and ready to go. There are some very easy story kits to make, like Brown Bear is a very simple story kit. You can photocopy that book easily, cut them out. Now you've got like 8 things I think there is in Brown Bear. What do you see? I see a blue bird looking at me. I love that one as a clothespin story. So a clothespin story is when you get a little rope, a small amount, some nice big clothespins. And as you're reading the story, each child gets an animal and they come and they peg it on the line. And that's a really lovely one for clothespin story. It's
Yeah.
simple, it's short, it's easy to do photocopying. That doesn't take any of it. Um, And yeah, sometimes it's hard to find the right props. You have to, over years and years and years, I had beautiful ones. I've had to start over because now I'm retired, left all my kits behind. But I'm starting over now, and this is how it is. Everywhere I go, I'm looking for things. Um, and there are some books that really lend themselves to story kits, and I've mentioned Brown Bear. Brown Bear's a really lovely one. You can also do something like Hungry Caterpillar. The Hungry Caterpillar is a beautiful one for a story kit.
That's one of my
Gorgeous,
favorites. That's my favorite.
gorgeous. Yeah, it is a good
Yeah,
one.
because of the fruits and the yeah,
It's really a
food.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then you can go to some of the traditional ones like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So if you can find, a little teeny Goldilocks, and just three little bears, and it start with just something simple. These kits you add to over months. And if you've got some creative people on your team, they could sew and stitch. Everyone can glue and staple, tape. And you can make them cheap too. You can go to the dollar store and just make them out of brown bags.
Yes.
Um, Especially if you're a good artist, you can just draw them.
Yeah.
Um, so story kits are a way to start this process of enriching these circle times, and then put a challenge out to your staff. In the next month, everybody make a story kit and bring them to the next staff meeting. What a great staff meeting that would be.
Yes.
Where you're putting out all the story kits and everyone's looking and oohing and ahhing and like, oh, can I borrow that one tomorrow? That fits exactly into my interest in my room. And keep them somewhere safe. Keep them safe. Label them up well. Make sure that you have full respect to the effort that's gone into that kit.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you're going to keep creating, right? It's not like a one and
do.
done kind of thing. Like you said, like you create them over time. So, because story
Yeah.
kits will get used up too, and they get kind of ratty sometimes. So sometimes you got to replace the items, or you have to like look at, creating a new one with a new book. So yeah, those are all amazing ideas, Jacky. I could see your passion really comes out for this topic, but we're out of time because I can't believe how fast that went. But
Thank
one,
you
I want
so
to give,
much.
yeah, no, I want you to give some final thoughts. So, if for an educator who still feels kind of unsure about leading a circle time, what advice can you give them? What can you get them? How can you motivate them to really try this out?
Well, number one, the children are not judging you. They are not. They're happy that you're just sitting on the floor with them doing something. So don't be so hard on yourself. Really be kind to yourself here. And if you can find one story to do this week, and one little prop to go with it, hey, you're on the way here. You're getting there. And I would say just relax. Take it easy, take it steady, and be be aware that nobody's here judging you. This isn't a competition. This is supposed to be fun and a beautiful time, and it certainly is. And I know that if you give this a go and give this a chance, you will also be passionate around these times. You'll be fighting on your team to who's going to do circle today because it's so much fun. So thank you, Susie, for having me on one of my favorite topics. And if you need help, you know where to find Susie and I, and we'd love to come and help you do story and circle times and get enthusiastic and calm because it's certainly you're able to. You will get there.
Thank you so much, Jacky. That was a real pleasure. And for our listeners, if you are interested in booking a Circles and Story workshop, we can do it virtually. It's a 1 hour workshop. And all of the information will be available in the comments for this podcast. Again, thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Hello and welcome back. It was so nice to talk to Jacky today about circles and stories. You can definitely see her passion for circle time and creating that wonderful sense of belonging for children in a gathering setting. And it's been infectious for me as well. I wasn't really a big circle time person until we really started getting into the topic, and now I am converted. And I definitely see the value of circle time and how it can really help with children's engagement, help with different parts of the day, whether it's transitions, whether it's bathroom time, whether you're outdoor, whether it's a scheduled part of your program, and really incorporate music and movement and storytelling to really, really create an environment where children's imaginations can just soar. I love the music kits, the story kits that you can create. And I really do believe that the key to all of this is organization. You need to be organized. You need to know what you're going to do in your circle time, unless you're a circle time guru where you can just pull things out of a hat at a moment's notice. But I really think most people will need to plan it out and really understand, like the jam sandwich. What are you going to do first? What are you going to do in the middle? And how are you going to end circle? And I think it's important to know you need a beginning and an end to the circle so that you can transition to the next thing easily. I also think there's so much creativity that you can use to create your circle kits, whether they be stories or music and movement. And I really am so inspired that my own centers are going through the process right now of creating story kits so that we can have a library of story kits that all of the educators can use depending on the children's interests. So I hope this has inspired you to make your circle times a little bit more engaging, to include props, to include elements of music and movement and finger plays and story time, and really make it come alive for children. Thanks for tuning in to the ECE Classroom with Susie Begin. For more information, you can visit our website at www.susiebegin.com. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes. Thanks for listening.